Alright, my name is the Nutty Professor, and I am a new YouTuber, and this channel is gonna be a socio-political in nature. It'll also delve into current affairs as well as politics. Just to kind of get you guys familiar with who I am and kind of some of the philosophies that I believe in, I'm gonna start off my YouTube channel going down a list of people who I admire. This list is going to contain dualities, meaning some of the people will be complete polar opposites. I'm going to go over some of the things that I like about these people, some of the things that I dislike about these people, so that I can kind of be as fair as I can. I'm going to try to keep the beginning of this series about 20 minutes, just because I don't like long ass YouTube videos. So I'll go ahead and jump in. The person that I most admire and that influences me the most is Neely Fuller Jr. Neely Fuller Jr. wrote a book called The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or actions for victims of racism, white supremacy. This is a book right here. I have read the book a couple times. It is a great book. I call it a book, but it's not so much as a book as more of a workbook, almost like a manual. It almost reads more of like a textbook, in which it kind of just gives you different advice and different ways of living in the system of racism and white supremacy, and what to do when you come across a white supremacist. What do you do if you suspect someone of being a white supremacist? And it kind of gives you an overall view of the world that we live in when it comes down to the system of racism. You know, he goes into 8-9 different activities of domination, includes how the system of racism and white supremacy controls all of us through our education, our economics, our entertainment, our labor, our law, our health, our religion, our sex, and through war, and how all of these categories we're controlled by. And this is just a very good book on a lot of different subjects, from just how to deal with people. One of the main takeaways from this book that I got is just how to ask questions. How it's so important to ask questions from people, and to talk less and just listen more. I'll give you an example. I had a customer who was telling me about U2, a band in which Bono is a member of, and so I was asking him. I was like, "Well, what kind of music does U2 play?" Because I like to listen to a lot of love music. I'm a very sappy, lovey-dovey type of person, and so he was like, "Oh, well, their music is very, politically conscious. The music is very socially aware. It talks about wars and famine and different stuff like that." And I go, "Okay, well, you enjoy listening to music that talks about war and famine and political strife?" He goes, "Oh, well, no, I don't necessarily enjoy listening to music like that. I just like the band." And I go, "Well, what kind of?" I ask him again, "Well, what kind of music? What do you like about this band? And so, just by kind of asking a variation of the same question over and over again, I was kind of able to get this person to realize that he didn't really know why he was listening to the band, or the reasons that he thought he was listening to the band aren't really the reasons he listened to the band at all. And so it's just a very good read on how to deal with the world that we live in. So it talks about racism, of course, and how there's an unequal power dynamic between interracial relationships, in which they are compared to a parent-child, a teacher-student, a prison guard inmate, in which the white person, be it man or woman, has a upper advantage on the non-white person, be it black, white, Mexican, and so there's just a unequal power balance. And it doesn't matter how much the black man beats his white woman, she still has more power over him. In which the fact that she can go into a certain store and get treated a different way by herself and get treated a different way with her husband, or she can go inside a restaurant and get treated one way with her brother and get treated a different way with her husband, or just a simple fact that there's just a unequal power dynamic in which police officers are going to treat the white person, the white male in the relationship any different than the black female, or whatever dynamic. It's just a simple fact that during that right now in the system of racism or white supremacy, the people who classify themselves as white have all the power, and any type of sexual relationships between the two is it's not productive, and it's not condoned, and it does not do anything for the system of racist white supremacy, especially when a lot of white people consider a lot of black people to be, sexually delectable, consider us to be loose, consider us to be easily accessible, consider us to be easily fuckable, consider all of our women to be, whores. And so that's just one example. He also go into different examples of how to deal with racism at work, how to deal with racism, a lot of different ways. Also, which I forgot, he also mentions how a lot of non-white people spend a lot of their time completely unproductive, in which you'll have a lot of, 5 black guys who just want to sit around and shoot dice and play dominoes and drink beer all day long. And he encourages black people, specifically black males, descendants of enslaved West Africans here in the United States. He encourages us to be as productive as possible, in which if 3 of us are going to be together, we're going to be painting a fence, we're going to be leveling the fence, we're going to be cleaning the gutters, we're going to be making sure this door hinge is right, we're going to be mowing the yard, in which there's going to be no type of unproductive things that black people do, especially when we're at the very bottom of the ladder here in the United States, bottom of the caste system here in the United States, and that all of our activities should be productive, including sex, and including a lot of black people are sex crazy, in which we want to have sex all day long, and how we should limit the amount of sex we have with our partner. Because, we should not lie in bed and want to have sex all day long. And we should want to get up and go to work. Or, we should not be so sexual obsessed in which, we have to have all these different partners, different, all this different stuff. And so it's a very interesting read. And it's a book for people who view themselves as victims of racist white supremacy. Not all black people, or not all people who are not white, view themselves as victims of racism and white supremacy. For example, Lil Wayne got into a lot of heat because he said racism doesn't exist. He said there's a white cameraman filming him. And in my opinion, it made complete sense for Lil Wayne to say that, because he's been a multimillionaire since he was 15 years old. He has been completely filthy rich and having the finest cars, the finest houses, the finest clothes, the finest everything. He's lived the very top 1% for the past 25, 30 years. So that goes the same for other people who live in a certain way that they are not victims of racism and white supremacy. There are, I do believe that there are people who do not view themselves as victims of racism and white supremacy. Now, I do believe they are victims of racism and white supremacy. No matter how much Lil Wayne does not believe he is a victim of racism and white supremacy, he is. He can't even release a CD because of Birdman, and all this other bullshit. But so if you do not see yourself as a victim of racism and white supremacy, do not check out this book. So, going along with Neely Fuller Jr., I also admire his student, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. For every 10 people who know Frances Cress Welsing, maybe 2 people know her mentor, her teacher, Neely Fuller Jr. And I think you really kind of have to understand both of them together to kind of really understand where we are at as a people. And I really think those two are very important. Like I said, I want to keep this under 20 minutes, and I also said in the beginning that this people who I admire would have dualities in it. The second person, or the third person, however you want to add it, the person that I admire the most is Dr. David Duke. Yes, I said it. Former Klansman, KKK, white supremacist Dr. David Duke. I admire him a lot. The main reason I admire Dr. David Duke is for the lack of confusion that this book still provides. This book provides this book stops at a system of racism or white supremacy, but it doesn't go into another level of system of Jew supremacy that Dr. David Duke talks about. And for the Jew supremacy that we do know about, including the fact that the Federal Reserve Bank is controlled mostly by Jews, the fact that a lot of the monarchs in Europe are supported mostly by Jews, the fact that Jews control our entertainment, Jews control so for all the outwardly knowledge that we know about the system of Jew supremacy, there's also a hidden world of Jew supremacy that we do not know about, in which phrases like goy and cleanliness and stuff like that goes into it, in which everyone is not a Jew. The beta I think they call beta Israelis, and the Ethiopians that live in Israel, they're not considered fully Jews, even though they can trace their heritage all the way back to I believe it's King Solomon. They're not considered Jews. They're treated as inferior. They're not intermarried. They're not intermarriage is not encouraged between them and other Ashkenazi white Jews. And so there is a real system of Jew supremacy that I think that this book does not acknowledge, but I do believe Dr. David Duke does acknowledge. Dr. David Duke, I believe he truly sees a future in which poor blacks and poor whites come together and realize that we have much more similarities than we have differences. That the trailer trash and the Appalachian Mountains is not too much different than the Section 8 hood rats and the South Side of Chicago. That they are not all that much different, and that together they can both come together and demand equality, economic equality. And I think that's truly important, because for all the system of racism or white supremacy, which is real, I do truly believe there is an intact system of racism or white supremacy that is out there. We still have to acknowledge that there is a nasty, dirty underbelly of completely poor, white, trash people who are out there, and which have always been out there. That have always fed this top, whether that top is elite Jews, whether that top is elite whites, elite Germans, I don't know. But there's always been this nasty underbelly. The United States was built on a nasty underbelly. Australia was built on a nasty underbelly, in which prisoners and lowlifes were sent to Australia and sent to the United States during the colonial times. Poor white trash were sent here. And so there is definitely a nasty underbelly that exists that I think a lot of people don't understand. Our political climate, they don't mention anything about lower class people, the very bottom. All of our politicians begin at the middle class. We want to secure more jobs for the middle class. We want to secure better homes for the middle class. But none of our politicians currently, in my opinion, talk and speak for the very bottom. The very, very, very bottom. What are we going to do with this very, very, very bottom? Is this very bottom just another commodity, just like cattle? Are poor white trash and poor blacks and poor Mexicans, are we just a commodity? Are our bodies just for prisons for middle class whites and blacks to earn a living on? Is that how it is? Is it just a simple caste system? I really admire Dr. David Duke because he talks about more of a caste system in the United States that I think is very important. And so, like I said, I'll try to close this vlog and kind of let you guys kind of take this discussion from here. And like I said, I understand that Dr. David Duke, he's a racist. I do understand that he is not a ally to black people. I completely understand that. But at least he opens up our eyes to possible other enemies out there that a lot of us don't see. A lot of us black people will put our Jewish brothers on our side in a second and say, we are all minorities. We are blind. We are completely blind to that, and we don't understand that our brethren Jews have multi-generational wealth that they keep to themselves, that is in their religious dogma to keep to themselves. So I don't want to go too much into that, but these are two people that I do admire. People call Neely Jr. a racist. They call Dr. David Duke a racist. But they still both possess attributes that I find admirable. And so, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and close this one out, and I will try to pick this up. I do know that this is a very rough first video. I'm a brand new YouTuber, so I hope you guys enjoy the roughness of this, the low resolution of the camera, me and my do-rag sitting next to my door, on the floor. This is the new age of media, in which we don't all have to sit behind some shiny desks with some cameras. I mean, with some hot lights behind us, which I probably will have that really soon. But I want to truly enjoy the ruggedness of this, because all of us enjoy YouTubers who start off at the bottom. We don't like to see our YouTubers, their very first video is of them with Nikon camera and strobe lights and this and that. I mean, we don't want to see our brand new YouTubers with overproductions. We have people like Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, who has become easily one of the biggest YouTubers of the last year, who still to this day has no shirt on, as he preaches to his thousands of followers. So I admire the ruggedness of that. So like I said, I'm going to try to keep this under 20 minutes, and thank you very much.